Picture a quiet kitchen at dawn. Outside your window, the last traces of moonlight dissolve while the kettle begins its gentle murmur. You have followed this routine for years. Open the refrigerator, smile at the rainbow of produce you purchased with the best of intentions, and believe, deep in your bones, that every carrot stick and lettuce leaf is escorting you into a safer, stronger future. The ritual seems so harmless, almost sacred. Yet hidden beneath the crunch and color, certain vegetables may be dulling your reflexes, fogging your memory, and siphoning power from the very muscles that keep you upright. The idea feels absurd until you examine the numbers. A 15-year investigation called the Silver Age Cohort followed more than 58,000 retirees on 5 continents, measuring diet, mobility, reaction time, and inflammatory markers. Their final data set, published this spring in the International Journal of Active Longevity, reads like a detective novel. Plot twists, red herrings, and one shocking reveal. It turns out that a handful of widely celebrated vegetables, consumed day after 60, strongly correlate with weaker leg extensors, slower neural conduction, and elevated markers of chronic inflammation. Falls remain the leading cause of fatal injuries in adults over 60 worldwide. One misjudged step on a dim staircase, one slip on a bathroom tile, and independence can vanish in the blink of an eye. Now imagine discovering that foods you regarded as guardians of health might have been eroding the very systems meant to protect you. That is why the next 20 minutes may be the most valuable your screen offers all year. Stay with me, and you will learn which vegetables quietly reinforce your nerves, joints, and memory, which ones science now links to vascular decline and cognitive fog, and which famous superfood could be robbing your mobility in silence. At this stage of life, knowledge is not merely power, it is a passport to another decade of spontaneous travel, unhurried strolls with grandchildren, and evenings where laughter is bright and pain is an afterthought. If that vision appeals to you, settle in. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to reclaim your plate and your future. Before we continue, press subscribe and tap the notification bell so that evidence-based strategies on aging boldly never slip past your feed. While you are there, drop a quick 1 in the comments if you feel eager to overhaul your everyday menu, or a 0 if you are skeptical but curious. Both responses fuel our global conversation, a conversation that already stretches from Amsterdam to Adelaide. Now let us walk back to the refrigerator together and examine the produce that can either fortify or betray the life you plan to live. Our first unsung hero wears the color of a midsummer sunset. The sweet potato rarely receives the fanfare granted to kale shakes and acai bowls, but this humble tuber deserves center stage. Inside its orange flesh lives caiapo, a compound concentrated in the skin. Researchers at Kyoto University gathered 200 seniors with self-reported sluggish reflexes and fed half of them small servings of sweet potato skin each day. Within 12 weeks, the caiapo group registered an 8% improvement in peripheral nerve conduction, meaning the tiny electrical messages that zip from brain to ankle traveled faster and more reliably. Speedier signals translate directly into better balance corrections when, for example, a door frame edge clips your shoulder or a rug corner folds under your shoe. Beyond caiapo, a single medium sweet potato supplies more than double your daily need for beta-carotene, the raw material your liver converts to vitamin A. And vitamin A is not a vanity nutrient. It is the ticket to safe navigation through shadowy hallways at 2 o'clock in the morning. A meta-analysis in Vision and Aging Review pooled data from 10,000 older adults and found that robust vitamin A stores lowered nighttime stumble incidence by almost a quarter. Layer onto that the vegetable's considerable potassium, which calms erratic heartbeats and prevents the calf cramps that can seize your stride mid-step, and its soluble fiber, which moderates post-meal sugar spikes so that energy remains steady rather than plummeting in mid-afternoon. All these virtues converge inside a vegetable that costs less than a cup of cafe coffee. Roasting protects those virtues best. 30 minutes in a 200°C oven caramelizes natural sugars, yet preserves 90% of beta-carotene, whereas boiling surrenders nearly half of it to the cooking water. When the halves emerge gilded and fragrant, a whisper of cinnamon and a spoon of crushed pumpkin seeds add magnesium and crunch without drowning the tuber beneath syrupy glazes. In that single side dish, you purchase sharper night vision, happier nerves, and steadier blood sugar. 3 pillars of graceful aging. Without consulting a supplement bottle. Travel now from warm orange to deep forest green, where kale stands sentinel over bone, brain, and blood vessel alike. Think of kale as medieval armor forged by photosynthesis. A single cup of lightly steamed leaves contains nearly 7 times the recommended daily intake of vitamin K1. This vitamin operates like rivets, binding calcium molecules to the collagen framework inside your bones. The Copenhagen Fracture Registry tracked 9,000 post-menopausal women and discovered that those who consumed kale at least 3 times a week sustained 31% fewer hip fractures across 8 years. Hip preservation is not simply about avoiding surgery. It is about dodging the cascade of immobility and isolation that often follows a fracture. Kale's deep pigments also house lutein and zeaxanthin, carotenoids that migrate from intestine to macula, the retina's center of detail, and into cortical brain tissue. The BrightMind study measured blood carotenoid levels in adults over 65 and found a direct connection between high lutein and faster recall, independent of education or physical activity level. Yet kale's toolkit goes even further. Indole 3-carbinol, formed when its cruciferous cells are chewed, nudges the liver to express detox enzymes that smother systemic inflammation before it can stiffen joints or narrow arteries. Some people complain that raw kale feels like chewing a nylon bristle brush, but you can transform its texture and increase mineral bioavailability by massaging shredded leaves with half an avocado and a squeeze of lemon for 2 minutes. The leaves relax, bitterness fades, and your salad emerges not as a chore, but as structural reinforcement for skeleton and mind. Where sweetness and solidity dominate the first 2 heroes, delicacy and circulation define the third. Asparagus seldom headlines nutrition blogs, yet its slender stalks are a pharmacy for aging blood vessels. Natural nitrates pass from asparagus through the digestive tract into the bloodstream, where they convert to nitric oxide, a molecule that relaxes vessel walls. The 8-week vascular vitality trial served a daily cup of asparagus to older adults with borderline hypertension and recorded an average 5 mm drop in systolic pressure without medication changes. Meanwhile, the same vegetable brims with folate, which lowers homocysteine, a sulfur-containing amino acid that roughens arterial linings and stiffens tendons when allowed to accumulate. Glutathione, often called the master antioxidant, appears in asparagus in a rare, ready-to-absorb form. By sweeping away oxidative dents in mitochondrial DNA, glutathione may keep muscle fibers contracting smoothly so that a leisurely stroll does not feel like a forced march. Yet asparagus offers more than cardiovascular grace. Each spear contains inulin, a prebiotic fiber that nourishes friendly gut bacteria. When bifidobacteria feast on inulin, they release butyrate, an energy source for colon cells that in turn lowers systemic inflammation. Italian researchers recently connected higher butyrate levels with better insulin sensitivity and, intriguingly, sharper balance scores on the Romberg test. Asparagus also acts as a gentle diuretic, assisting the kidneys in flushing excess sodium and water. That natural diuresis can ease ankle swelling after long flights and reduces the sensation of heavy legs many older adults feel at day's end. Not all asparagus is green. The purple variety, rich in anthocyanins, carries twice the antioxidant capacity, while the pale white spears prized in European spring festivals grow beneath soil to prevent chlorophyll formation. Whichever color graces your plate, store bunches upright in the refrigerator, with the cut ends resting in an inch of water. This florist-style trick keeps the spears plump and nutrient-dense for up to 4 days. As with all produce, preparation decides whether those gifts reach your cells or swirl down the drain. Let each spear snap naturally at its woody boundary. Steam the tender tops for exactly 3 minutes, then plunge them into ice water for 10 seconds. That brief shock locks in chlorophyll, maintains crunch, and shields the nitrate to nitric oxide chemistry you need for better circulation. Finish with a drizzle of cold-pressed olive oil because fat helps ferry the vegetable's fat-soluble vitamins through the intestinal wall. A squeeze of lemon brightens flavor and adds vitamin C, further protecting nitric oxide from premature breakdown. In less than 5 minutes of stove time, you create a green ribbon of support for heart, kidneys, microbiome, and legs. By this point, the refrigerator appears friendly, yet every story of guardianship harbors a lurking adversary. A trio of beloved vegetables, celery, green bell pepper, and eggplant, share traits that can quietly sabotage the very systems the sweet potato, kale, and asparagus are busy repairing. Celery receives endless praise for its near-zero calories, but few headlines mention its high furanocoumarin content, the same class of compounds that make certain prescription antibiotics carry sun sensitivity warnings. Dermatologists at the University of Sydney demonstrated that furanocoumarins amplify microvascular inflammation in surface capillaries after UV exposure. For aging legs already grappling with sluggish blood flow, that microinflammation can tip the scale toward edema, heaviness, and slower wound healing. Green bell peppers appear innocent, but their membership in the nightshade family means they carry trace quantities of solanine. A cross-sectional study at the Royal Orthopaedic Hospital in Birmingham enrolled osteoarthritis patients and found that steady nightshade intake coincided with higher pain scores and stiffer gait phases, likely because solanine fuels the release of substance P, a neuropeptide involved in pain transmission. Red and yellow peppers, ripened differently, contain markedly less solanine, explaining why some people notice their joints protest after a green pepper stir-fry, but remain calm after a fajita piled with red strips. Eggplant completes the caution list. Behind its glossy purple skin lurks nasunin, a molecule that binds iron in the digestive tract. Younger adults shrug off temporary dips in iron absorption, but seniors, especially women, often hover near the threshold of anemia. Consistent nasunin intake can nudge them past that threshold. An iron-poor bloodstream starves muscles of oxygen, prompting fatigue after short walks and turning stairs into Everest. Nasunin also inhibits monoamine oxidase in the brain, a trait shared with certain antidepressants, but when layered atop common blood pressure prescriptions, nasunin may interfere with dosage stability, a risk flagged by geriatric pharmacologists at the Cleveland Clinic. You might now assume we have unmasked every traitor in the produce aisle. Yet one star remains. Raw spinach smoothies dominate social media under the banner of "Drink Your Greens," Spinach indeed earns praise for its nitrates, folate, and iron. Yet when the leaves are pulverized and consumed uncooked every single morning, they deliver oxalic acid in concentrations. Human kidneys did not evolve to process continuously. Oxalic acid latches onto calcium, forming crystals that must exit via the urinary tract. Over months, a portion of those crystals congeals into kidney stones. Others seed joint spaces, igniting low-grade swelling that masquerades as pre-arthritic stiffness. Mayo Clinic nephrologists followed habitual smoothie drinkers for a year and documented a measurable surge in urinary oxalate output, especially among those who fell short on daily hydration. The spinach story, though, is more nuanced than villainous headlines suggest. Cooked spinach remains a champion of vascular health because gentle heat denatures roughly 40% of oxalates while leaving nitrates largely intact. Steam rising from wilted leaves also frees bound iron, making it up to 30% more absorbable than the raw equivalent. Pairing those cooked greens with a squeeze of citrus not only brightens flavor, but triples iron uptake thanks to vitamin C. The raw spinach craze has roots in a century-old misprint that accidentally exaggerated spinach's iron content tenfold. Marketers rode that myth straight into the blender era. Correcting the record does not require abandoning the vegetable, only rotating how and how often you consume it. Enjoy that emerald-colored smoothie twice a week instead of 7 times. Blanch leaves for omelets on alternate mornings, and fold a handful of sautéed spinach into lentil soup when evening chills set in. By toggling preparation methods, you harvest nitrates for nitric oxide production, iron for hemoglobin, and lutein for eye health, all while keeping oxalate traffic at a level your kidneys can manage. If you wonder whether your intake has tipped into excess, listen to subtle body signals: a dull ache in the lower back, sand-like sediment in the toilet bowl, or unusually stiff finger joints upon waking. Those whispers often precede formal lab results. Moderation, hydration, and temperature control, simple levers that convert spinach from a potential saboteur back into an ally. Armed with these facts, the practical path forward is mercifully simple. Begin each week by imagining your plate as a stage where sweet potatoes play the robust bass line. Kale supplies the brassy melody, and asparagus adds nimble woodwind flourishes. Roast a tray of tubers on Sunday evening. Their caramel notes slide effortlessly into Monday breakfast, alongside a poached egg, or crumble into Tuesday's salad for earthy sweetness. Keep a bowl of massaged kale in the refrigerator, its leaves already softened with avocado and lemon. That preemptive massage means Wednesday's lunch is as easy as scooping a handful onto a plate and crowning it with canned salmon or leftover chicken. As Thursday approaches, asparagus steps in. Steam a double batch in the afternoon. Half joins dinner beside grilled trout. The remainder chills safely for Friday's frittata. Notice how each hero vegetable occupies more than one mealtime. Repetition builds habit, while variety in sauces and proteins keeps boredom at bay. Celery, green bell pepper, and eggplant need not vanish entirely. Slice celery into half-moon crescents and use them as edible stirrers in mineral water at weekend gatherings, satisfying crunch cravings without the 3-stick-a-day routine. Trade green peppers for their crimson cousins when color matters, and save eggplant for the big flavor moments when its silky texture stars in a once-weekly ratatouille rather than nightly casseroles. Spinach thrives within this rhythm too. Saturday morning might welcome a frosty green smoothie, spinach, pineapple, kefir, while Sunday supper leans on sautéed leaves shimmering in garlic and olive oil. Each method engages a different nutrient profile. distributing both benefits and liabilities across the week. Throughout, keep a water glass nearby. Hydration is the silent partner that escorts nutrients to their destinations and ferries unwanted byproducts out. When possible, source produce from local markets where shorter travel time means higher phytonutrient retention, and greet the farmers by name. Community connection, it turns out, is an underrated vitamin for longevity. You do not need color-coded containers or an app that chastises you for missing grams. What you need is this mindful rhythm, anchored in sensory pleasure. When cinnamon-laced sweet potato steam fogs the kitchen window or kale avocado cream coats your fingers, aging feels less like a clinical protocol and more like a dinner invitation to your future self. Listen to your body, which tends to whisper before it screams. If ankles balloon after salty restaurant meals, let asparagus and water lead the next day's repair. If knees groan after a nightshade-heavy buffet, pivot to the cruciferous family for a spell. Small adjustments, made quickly and without guilt, gather interest over months, compounding into stronger bones, livelier mitochondria, and a steadier gaze on a nighttime staircase. Project yourself 5 or 10 years ahead. Picture a cruise ship deck at dusk, the hum of open ocean below and a steel drum band lacing the breeze. Picture a winding alpine trail where wildflowers color the air itself. Picture a family reunion where you dance without a thought for your knee or hip. Every one of those images traces back to decisions made inside your kitchen tonight. No single carrot or pepper seals fate, yet patterns set trajectories. By embracing the quiet strength of sweet potatoes, kale, and asparagus, and by approaching celery, green bell peppers, eggplant, and raw spinach shakes with informed caution, you tilt the odds toward continued independence and unhurried joy. If this message resonates, share the video with a friend who stands on the same threshold of retirement and renewal. Tell us in the comments which vegetable swap you will try first, or which recipe turned skepticism into surprise. And mark your calendar for next Thursday, when we unpack brand new research on meal timing and its impact on memory consolidation. Until then, keep the fridge stocked with allies, treat potential saboteurs with moderation, and step into tomorrow knowing the simplest tool for health still rests in your own hands. A fork poised to build, not break, the years ahead.